So the source code for this lab, just go to the list of files. There's only one file. And you can see that the result of our build, we're using new headers, and they are included with from the locations that we have updated. These are the header files that are like brand new header files that we were able to download. Currently, when we run this application, it does not, it just creates this window that has the window title and is using little like a label box with hello world inside. And these numbers represent the width and height of the window, and the width and height of the label, and position of the label. So because we're using 2D graphics, the units for these numbers are pixels, right? So depending on your screen resolution, you get a certain amount of pixels available to you on your screen. And so these numbers refer to measurements in pixels. So more about this when we talk about things in our second lab. One thing that I'd like to address here is that in order on Windows, in order to have your application execute as a window application and not a console application, you need to provide this WinMain function. So this is the entry point for window application. However, let me show you something. For example, if I comment out this, and actually I'm not sure if, let me start with debug build here. I'd switch to debug build and comment out this WinMain with its set of parameters and uncomment main. Okay, so just to show you something that I use sometimes. So instead of using typical Windows application with entry point into WinMain, we now changed it to the standard main entry point. And let's build this. Okay, so this builds fine with the current settings of our project. And now I'll start it and run it. And I'll show you something that besides this window, which is the graphical user interface window, if we use main, now it also creates the console application. So if you don't like having this console application also alongside, like side by side with the graphical user interface window, which will be like configuring and using its features, you can simply uncomment WinMain and excuse me, rebuild it with WinMain, and this thing will be gone, right? But still having console window alongside with graphical user interface can be extremely beneficial in debugging, because you can still use cout character output to print some information over here for doing some debugging work. Like, it's still pretty cool to have this window because it's a very easy and cheap way of displaying information here. So again, for example, oh, and by the way, let me stop this. And by the way, as it says here, you also, if you're using main, you don't need this anymore, right? So this is Windows.h brings the declaration of this function, which we now can define, and the console window is gone. But I also commented out this include over here, which I don't need right now, and I will build it. Right, so you see it builds fine without it, and instead I can include a standard library iostream, right? And the usual way I can now use cout if I want to, and this information right here will be printed in a console window, which is very nice to have because we can use cout to do all sorts of debugging messages, displaying values, which is not so easy to do in graphical user interface window. So this is a very valuable debugging tool, which I consider, which is very nice. So once again, there are two choices. You can build this as a main standard entry point, or as WinMain, and then remember you need to uncomment windows.h. But nevertheless, let's just build this and run it, and I'll just bring it over here. You see that this is our graphical user interface, and this is the console window that now says hello right here. So this is kind of cool for debugging purposes. Anyways, so that's completion of our first lab in graphical user interface, and series of graphical user interface labs. To exit from here, I typically follow the same exact steps. Build clean. If I'm done with this and I'm no longer using this application, I like to clean it to delete any kind of results of the build, and then close solution. Also, by the way, I normally go to window and close all documents like this, just like, I don't really need to have anything in view, and then close solution. Done, right? So this is a clean way of shelving a project till you need it again.